Hi everybody, so here we are at the YouTube studio at the Republican National Convention, and here I have Matt Kibbe, who's the president of Free the People. He's also the author of a couple books, Don't Hurt People and Don't Take Your Stuff. Thanks for being here, Matt.
Good to be with you, Julie, in our cool little living room.
Pretty cool. Yeah. So, the RNC, what are your thoughts so far? What have you seen?
Why do I keep coming back? That's what I'm asking myself. I've been coming since 1992, and I almost feel like an abused spouse at this point. I keep coming back, hoping that something will be interesting, hoping that there'll be a seat at the table for liberty, but two things are happening instead. There's less and less actual, substantive, authentic conversation. Everything's phony. It reminds me of an old Seinfeld episode. It's about nothing. And security is also just a freaking nightmare now. There's wall after wall, and you go through all this stuff. So I don't know why you keep coming back, but this year I want to come back because I think this may be the death of the GOP, and I really needed to be here to say goodbye to an old friend.
Yeah, to the viewers who don't know, security has been crazy. They threw away an umbrella that I got, so I was kind of upset about that, but yeah, it's been crazy. So is there anything different this year that you've seen in the past?
Well, I think there's actually fewer people. Like, you can actually get a hotel room in Cleveland right now because there's this insane breaking up of the old coalition that held the Republican Party together. I think the emergence of Donald Trump has alienated not just sort of Rand Paul liberty Republicans, but also Ted Cruz constitutional conservatives, Mitt Romney country club Republicans. They're all kind of squabbling with each other now, and I think that's made for, maybe it makes for more drama, but also I wonder how it all comes together in the end in a functional way.
So you say death of the GOP. Does that mean we hijack the GOP? Does that mean we go to the Libertarian Party? What are your thoughts?
So I've always thought that the best strategy was for libertarians to take over the Republican Party because it's a two-party system and the rules of the game are rigged that make it very difficult for something like the Libertarian Party to succeed. I think that's changing because I think the two-party duopoly is breaking up for the same reason that all sorts of top-down institutions are failing today. Mainstream media is falling apart, and all of these top-down institutions that used to tell us what to think, and RNC and DNC headquarters are having the same problem, and the emergence of the Liberty wing of the GOP is a great example of that. There was no Rand Paul, there was no Justin Amash, there was no Thomas Massey, so they're sort of organizing outside of the system. So it's a long way of saying I think not only is a third party possible, but I think a fourth party is possible as well. I think the two-party duopoly is literally falling apart before our eyes.
So you actually went to the Libertarian National Convention. How was that?
I was disappointed because I was expecting a freak show, and there was a lot of earnest, well-dressed young people that are trying to save the world. And I'd heard all these horror stories about crazy libertarians, but I was impressed, frankly. I was impressed with the level of sophistication, the understanding that everybody was watching maybe for the first time, with the exception of the fat hairy dude that took his clothes off. That was a buzzkill for sure.
I think that got the most coverage in the media, Naked Guy Libertarian Party.
Yeah, I read the New York Times piece afterwards, and they wanted to tell the story about how weird we were, and they mixed us with the Comic-Con convention that was happening at the same hotel, but they didn't explain to people that those were not libertarians. Those were people that were there doing cosplay, dressing up like Wookiees. Those were not necessarily libertarians.
Yeah, I think a lot of libertarians are kind of torn right now. Do you vote for Gary Johnson, or do you suck it up and vote for Donald Trump to stop Hillary? Do you have any advice on how to do that?
I don't get libertarians to support Donald Trump, and I realize that he was just really outspoken in his critique of the Iraq War. But he also is a guy that at the heat of the moment, when we actually were going into Iraq, he was saying, yeah, we have to do this. So I think the measure of a libertarian is that in the heat of the moment, when you take the tough, principled position, when nobody is willing to respect you for it. It's easy to support going to war when everyone's fired up. It's tough to say, no, this is a bad idea. Kind of like when we bailed out Wall Street, there were so few people on the Republican side, on the Democratic side, even among sort of libertarian groups that were willing to say no. Now is the time you say no. So I'm not that impressed with Donald Trump's foreign policy, even though I like some of the things that he says. But more importantly, I think his instinct is very authoritarian, and he always falls back to, look, I don't know what's in the Constitution. I don't really care, but I know what I think, and when I'm in charge, we're going to get stuff done. I think that is a fundamentally dangerous position, one that no libertarian should support.
Yeah, Donald Trump is kind of all over the place. Like, I agree on him on some things, and then I'm like, wait, I'm scared about him because I have no idea what to expect, whereas Hillary, we know what to expect. So yeah. It's very hard.
And I'm now a Gary Johnson guy, okay. and we were talking about this before. I think the opportunity for Gary Johnson is not unlike what Ron Paul accomplished by running for president. We want to put that alternative on the stage. We want people to know that there is such a thing as a libertarian. I call it the sane alternative to neoconservative Republicans and neoconservative Democrats, because Hillary is really a kind of a warmonger. And so people are going to be Googling libertarian. They're going to be checking out Gary Johnson. I think that's an opportunity to really finish the death of the GOP. And I don't care who it is. It could be a new Republican Party. It could be a Libertarian Party. I want people to know what this libertarian thing is all about.
What about libertarians who say Gary Johnson isn't a real libertarian? He's a liberal. He wants bakers to make Nazi cakes. Like, what is your response to that?
I think Gary Johnson is leaps and bounds more libertarian than anybody else that will be on that main stage if he gets there. And I think the challenge for us as libertarians is, there's libertarian philosophy and there's libertarian debate clubs where we debate really esoteric issues about whether or not you should have to bake a Nazi wedding cake. And then there's the practical question of whether or not libertarians could pull together a majority coalition to govern the country, to do less war, to appreciate more individual liberty, to actually balance the budget. All those really insane ideas we have. And I think those are two different things. So I think, I wish Gary Johnson was more libertarian. I wish he was more articulate, but compared to the other two guys, I think it's a no-brainer.
Gary Johnson has really been trying to reach out to Bernie Sanders supporters. I know a lot of Bernie Sanders supporters who are disappointed that he endorsed Hillary Clinton. How can we reach out to these Bernie Sanders supporters?
I think that's the biggest opportunity. Young millennials that are flirting with democratic socialism, millennials that were drawn to Bernie Sanders, frankly, for a lot of the same reasons young people were drawn to Ron Paul. He was anti-big bank. He was working with Ron Paul to end the Fed. He's anti-permanent war. He's against crony capitalism. And I think on that level, there's a lot of common ground, sort of anti-establishment, rage against the machine. But all of those things are stories about government abuse of power. So how do we connect the dots for young people to understand that if you're for community and cooperation and peaceful coexistence, socialism is not the answer. There's a history behind socialism, and it's a murderous, disastrous history of totalitarianism. And I think they're misusing the terms. I think when they hear socialism, they think of people working together to solve problems. When they hear capitalism, they think of cronyism and fat cats gaining the system. So I think maybe we need to change our language, but I think libertarian values are going to be really compelling to young people that were feeling the burn and are now saying, Hillary Clinton, there's nothing there for me.
Yeah. Among the young people that I know that I went to college with in high school, they aren't really political. They actually hate politics. But when they hear the word socialism, they think, oh, that's the nice guys. They want to help the poor. They want to share. And then they hear the word capitalism and they think, oh, that's greedy. You want all the money to themselves. So I think there really is an opportunity to reach young people. Could you talk a little bit about Free the People, what you're trying to do there?
I launched with some former colleagues of mine from FreedomWorks, a new organization called Free the People. And the first thing you will notice is that there's no red, white, and blue. There's no tri-corner hats. There's no eagles vomiting fire, because I think that two-party duopoly, Republican versus Democrat, conservative versus liberal, that's not how young people think about things. They're shopping for ideas and community the same way they shop for everything else, a la carte. They curate their friends, they curate their communities, and I think they're looking for those answers, which is why we're using a lot of social media and cultural memes and storytelling and language that makes sense to real people. And we've started with a lot of video work, and the most popular stuff we're doing is on socialism, and trying to sort of lift the covers and go back and look at practical examples of what this noble experiment actually translated into in practice. But part of it is talking to conservatives, who I think have a lot of libertarian instincts, but part of it is also talking to progressives who think they're for big government but haven't really worked through the implications of what more government is all about.
Yeah, I love what you do with social media. Like, I feel like some people on our side don't really get the Facebook, the Twitter, the YouTube thing. Because if you look at YouTube, which we're at the YouTube studio right now, if you look at the popular YouTubers, all of them are liberal. All of them are Bernie Sanders supporters or Hillary Clinton, they're left. And our side isn't really doing the video thing. So it's great that you're doing the video thing and that YouTube allows me to have this space to actually express my viewpoints. Where can people find you online?
Go to freetopeople.org. We're on Facebook and YouTube as well. And I think the future is fundamentally libertarian. YouTube is really a crowdsourced libertarian platform, and I think you embrace the chaos and you jump in and really love the fact that people will solve problems if we let them.
All right, well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Julie.